Hi, I'm Steve Miller. Let's talk about assembling your Ikelite housing with a macro lens. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this camera assembled for a macro lens. This is actually pretty simple since you've probably traveled with your tray disconnected from the housing. The first thing you're going to want to do is use the two flathead screws located at the bottom of it to attach the handle and tray assembly to the bottom of the housing itself. Again, this isn't something you're going to need to change every single day that you go diving. The only time mine comes off is when I'm coming to or from a dive destination. Also, when you're putting these together, and this is true really of all the parts and pieces for Ikelite, you don't need to crank any of this stuff down. We use plastic washers and assemblies that will allow this to stay secure without vibrating loose. Okay, now I've got my handle and tray assembled to the housing. I'm going to want to install the camera. One nice thing about the macro lens is that you don't have to worry about any lens gears or anything. All you'll simply do is attach the hot shoe connection, that's how your camera talks to your strobe, then locate the tripod hole on the bottom of the camera itself and line that up with the screw that comes out of the base plate. Now this base plate, you can see, is made with a slot, and this slotted flathead could be done with either a screwdriver or a coin. It can also be done hand-tied. I've often hand-tightened this and had very little trouble with it ever vibrating apart. Again, don't feel compelled to crank down any of the pieces on these systems. O-ring seals don't need a lot of torque or tension. From there, the camera is assembled to the base plate. The hot shoe is in position. At this point, I want to back away any of my controls that extend inside of the housing. There's usually two. And I'm just going to bring the two pieces together. As the two pieces come together, you'll see it matching up in a solid line from behind. And then the preferred method is going to be to do your two side cams simultaneously. These are locking cams. Then once those have been cammed into position, your third and final one on top. At this point, the camera is secure inside the body, and all of your controls will be lining up. The last step then is going to be to put on the port. Now the port matches up to the specific lens you were using. So if this was a 100mm lens, I would have a slightly longer port than this one, which is for the 60mm lens that I have here. From here, we've made sure that our O-rings are clean and in position and that there's no impurities on any of the seating surfaces. From there, with even pressure, I'll even get a little bit of a turn just to make sure that I'm seated properly. And at that point, you can push your port locks into position. At this point, this housing is ready to go diving. I can slide and swing my controls back into position. And remember that if you're not using lights on the dive, that you will need this cap to keep your bulkhead dry. So if the strobe cord isn't hooked onto this, then make sure your waterproof cap is.